According to the Thursday, July 31st recap of The Bold and the Beautiful, Brooke Logan told Ridge Forrester to "screw you" and departed, while Sheila Sharp accused Lee Finnegan of having a secret. Sheila continued to press for an opportunity to pay her last respects to Luna Nozawa at Il Giardino, wondering where she could go to do so. Lee ultimately went without her takeout since she was no longer hungry, insisting that there was nothing Sheila could do for Luna at this time. Sheila confided in Deacon Sharp about Lee's aggressive behavior in response to her inquiries. Sheila sensed that something was wrong with Lee, even if she was unable to pinpoint the exact cause. When Lee finally returned to Luna's bedside, she discovered that her health had not improved. Lee discussed how Luna never had a genuine chance to have a mother with Papi Nozawa after reflecting on her early years. Lee urged Luna to open her eyes, insisting that she was now there for her. Will Spencer proposed that Electra Forrester, who would be the sexiest model ever, should represent Forrester Creations in Italy during Thursday's B&B show. Before discussing Luna and all the harm she had caused, Electra played down that notion. Will implied that they were only expressing the truth, and that he was relieved that Electra was no longer a threat, despite her desire to avoid criticizing the deceased. Brooke in Capri was tired of having to answer questions about his engagement to Taylor Hayes and posing for pictures with Ridge. She chose to go with Nick Marone after Brooke yelled, "Screw you," at Ridge because he gave her a passionate, lustful gaze. In contrast to Ridge, who gave all of this back and forth with Taylor, Brooke appreciated that Nick treated her as though he only wanted one woman. Nick pursued Brooke despite Eric Forrester's recent admonition to avoid her, and he became enraged with Ridge for making her unhappy. Nick reached out his hand and begged Brooke to join him, to get off this merry-go-round once and for all. Ridge didn't appear pleased when Brooke finally put her hand in Nick's as he requested and walked away with him. Spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful hint that Dr. John Finnegan will be blackmailed by Dr. Grace Buckingham when he threatens to reveal the dishonest physician. Finn gets one step closer to discovering the truth about the surgery hoax involving Liam Spencer. Although he is not yet suspicious, he is on the verge of discovering that Liam has never had a brain tumor. He thinks the procedure was a bit too flawless. According to Liam, he feels nearly too normal for a few days after surgery. Finn was shocked to learn that, being a doctor himself, he is aware that it should take Liam a few weeks to return to normal. If nothing else, his head should hurt. However, Liam reports that he feels great and is neither weak or in discomfort. It worries Finn and is a warning sign. Regarding Liam, Finn confronts Grace. According to teasers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Finn will discover proof that Grace defrauded Bill Spencer of $1 million for what may have been a phony operation. With assurance, Finn will corner Grace and demand that she return the money to Bill. He might bring up the fact that Bill can be cruel, and that she might suffer unimaginable repercussions if she doesn't tell him the truth. Grace is unlikely to confess to any wrongdoing. She might even claim to have saved Liam's life when speaking to the doctor. Liam might have passed away from the incurable brain tumor if she hadn't been there. According to B&B spoilers, Finn is not going to be duped by Grace. He presents her with the evidence he has of her fraud. Finn is shocked by Grace's blackmail. According to teasers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Grace will have a strategy because she believes Finn will investigate Liam's operation. If Lee Finnegan doesn't back down, she intends to reveal the secret she found out about him. Grace will inform Finn that his mother is recuperating Luna Nozawa by concealing her in a hidden place. Lee falsified a death certificate in order to commit medical fraud. Finn demands evidence since he doesn't trust Grace. At that point, Grace displays a number of images of Luna in a makeshift hospital room, while Lee gives her medication via an IV bag. Grace observes Finn's astonishment at the disclosure. He obviously was unaware of his mother's plan. At that point, Grace says that if Lee informs Bill about Liam, she would reveal his secret. According to previews on The Bold and the Beautiful, Finn will have to make a significant choice that may affect Lee down the road. With her fingers lightly touching her thigh, Sheila perched on the side of the bed. She remained restless despite the wall clock ticking away. There was a problem. For days now, she had sensed a little change in the atmosphere, akin to the aroma of impending storm. Lee had been behaving oddly, becoming more reserved and secretive. They were yelling that Lee was concealing something, and Sheila had long since learnt to believe her gut. Sheila squinted as she relived their most recent exchanges. With her, the doctor was usually icy and acerbic, but now there was a different type of separation. A strain. It was now dread rather than merely contempt. Sheila was conversant in the language of fear. It provided her with leverage and power. However, Sheila herself was not the source of this anxiety. No. This was apprehension about something being found. The sound of talking drifted through the home downstairs. She heard Finn's voice, clear and sweet. He was speaking to Steffi on the phone. The name made Sheila furious. Steffi had made it quite apparent that she didn't want Sheila in close proximity to her family. What about Brooke? Brooke had attempted to influence every choice Ridge made, as she always did. Sheila had witnessed people like Brooke break down in the past, so she didn't care about her sanctimony. Still, she turned back to Lee. What might she be concealing? Sheila knew that even the most cautious people had blind spots, but she wasn't the type to make mistakes, particularly when motivated by feelings. And when it came to Finn, Lee had plenty of it. Sheila was more aware than anyone that a mother's love might inspire a woman to do unthinkable things. She got up, moved around to the window and looked out into the dark backyard. The possibilities rushed through her head. There was something off about Lee's recent hospital visits. She stated that she was filling in for a coworker by working extra hours. However, Sheila had called a couple times, and no such absences were found. Lee wasn't filling in for anybody. Where was she heading then? The sound of the stairs cut through her thoughts. Sheila hurried back to her chair, trying to look composed as Finn walked in. Is everything all right? He inquired. Sheila forced a smile and said, Of course. Just pondering. He scowled a little. You haven't said much lately. Just attempting to avoid trouble. He seemed unconvinced, but he nodded. Steffi wants me to spend a few days at the Cliff House again. The kids miss me, she says. Sheila's smile dimmed slightly. How about me? Do I not matter? You do, Finn remarked softly. But I have to act in my family's best interests. Sheila forced herself to calm down. Right now she couldn't exert too much pressure. Obviously. You make a wonderful father. He gave her shoulder a quick pat before leaving the room. Sheila's mask fell off as soon as he left. She had put forth too much effort to be ignored now. She had no intention of losing either her grandchild or her son again. All of this had something to do with whatever Lee was concealing. Sheila would discover the truth. Ridge stood by the fireplace, gazing into the dancing flames across town. A few clothes were still leaking out of Brooke's partially open bag, which was left by the door like the remains of an incomplete farewell. She crossed her arms and stood quietly behind him. She said, You haven't said anything. Ridge made a leisurely turn. His face was unreadable. What am I supposed to say? That you'll defend us, she remarked. That you continue to have faith in us. He let out a sigh. I've been fighting for years, Brooke. For you. For us. And we always find ourselves back here at a fork in the road. She blinked away the tears that welled up in her eyes. This time it's different. Is it? He inquired. Because the arguments seem to be the same treachery. Reopened wounds of the same kind. She took a step nearer him and touched his chest. I cherish you. I understand, he muttered. But love isn't always enough. They were silent for a long time. At last, Brooke took a step back and let her hand drop. So that's it. I'm not sure, Ridge said. I just know that I need room. Without all the chaos, I need to discover who I am. Brooke bit her lip and turned away. Will Taylor be included in that space? The fact that he didn't respond gave her all the information she required. Her face was etched with sorrow as she nodded slowly. I won't stop you then. An hour later, with a finality that reverberated throughout the deserted house, the door closed behind her. With his face buried in his hands, Ridge took a seat on the couch. With her heart thumping in her chest, Lee strode along the lower corridor of the hospital. Except for records and storage, the basement wing was seldom ever used. She was there for another reason, though, a secret she had been hiding for months. She slipped inside after opening a side entrance. One lamp was the only source of light in the room, creating shadows on the floor. There was a bed in the corner with monitors beeping softly next to it. The man who was lying there was alive but yet unconscious. Jack. As she approached, she adjusted his fore and checked his vitals. Her hands trembled a little. If Sheila discovered, she stopped, gasping for air. She was being crushed under the weight of her secret. When Lee found out about Jack's betrayal during their encounter, he vanished without a trace. He had not, however, disappeared. Because of an accident that no one could explain, he had ended up in the hospital. Lee had ensured that nobody would. She had assumed responsibility for his care and relocated him to an area where no one would notice. It was her way of making amends. Her penalty. Her method of shielding Finn from the unpleasant reality of his biological parents' identities. Jack and Sheila. Two individuals who have only wreaked disaster on her son's life. She refused to allow them to come close to him ever again. Never. Reaching for Jack's hand, she took a seat next to the bed. "You ought to have avoided it," she said. "Look where we are now." Sheila had followed her, although she was unaware of it. Sheila stood motionless outside the door, her head spinning. Jack? Was he present? And still alive? She stepped back slowly, her mind racing. Why would Lee conceal Jack? What kept her from telling Finn? Unless she had something to lose, that is. Unless she had a lie to hide. A gentle smile curved Sheila's lips. She had enough pieces, but not all of them yet. Everything altered as a result. Ridge watched the waves crashing against the rocks at the beach the following morning. He had slept very little. His thoughts kept returning to Taylor, Brooke, and all of his past errors. For the first time in a long time, he felt the need to stop avoiding the past, even if he had no idea what lay ahead. Taylor came up behind him warily. "You arrived," he remarked. "I needed to think." The breeze caught her hair as she stood next to him. "Have you decided yet?" "No," Ridge replied plainly. "However, I am aware that I do not wish to lose myself once more." Taylor gave a nod. "So let's avoid discussing the past. Let's simply be present." In the present, they stood still as the big, unknown ocean stretched out in front of them. When Lee came out of the basement of the hospital, Sheila was waiting for him in the hallway. "You've been quite busy," Sheila remarked nonchalantly. Lee's eyes became a little wider. "What are you discussing?" Sheila took a step forward and spoke softly. "You may unwind. I am aware of Jack." Lee's eyes flashed, but her face remained unchanged. "You have delusions." "Am I?" Sheila tilted her head and spoke. "Because I noticed him. Alive. Inhaling. Connected to devices. And you pretending to be a nurse." Lee's mouth clenched. "You have no idea what you're discussing," Sheila said. "Oh, I believe I do. Finn will too, after I tell him everything." "You wouldn't risk it," Lee growled. Sheila smiled broadly as she leaned closer. "Lee, you have underestimated me. I am not the monster you believe me to be. I'm far worse." Lee tightened her fists at her sides. "You'll ruin Finn if you tell him." "No," Sheila replied. "You've already done it. All I'm doing is tidying up the mess." Lee stood motionless as Sheila left, feeling as though the earth was tilting over her. The secret she had so vehemently protected was no longer secure. And at last, the storm she had been afraid of had arrived. Please let me know if you want the story to be presented from the viewpoint of another character, or if you would prefer the next section.